You matter. And completing the 2020 census matters to Decatur, Macon County. Completing the 2020 census is critical and necessary for our community to receive the funding that's needed for job training, better schools, better health care, and services such as food assistance and housing. It's easy and it just takes a few minutes to complete. Go to 2020census.gov, fill out the 2020 census today, and let your voice be heard. Welcome to Speak Up, Speak Out, a weekly online forum to discuss issues facing our community and working towards ways to enact real change. I'm your moderator, Terrence Taylor, radio personality, DJ on Hot 105.5, essential skills instructor with Enrich program at Rich Community College, and the director of community investment here at the Community Foundation of Macon County. All of the jobs belong to me. Topics weekly on Speak Up, Speak Out will include everything from community action, mental health, family, communication, and more. You can catch Speak Up, Speak Out every Saturday on our Hot 105.5 Facebook page, as well as nowdecatur.com. I want to take this moment to thank all of those who made this forum possible each week. That's Crossing Healthcare, the Community Foundation of Macon County, United Way of Decatur, and Mid-Illinois, Neuhoff Media in our great city of Decatur. And you, the audience, are invited to participate. We want you to speak up and speak out along with us. Submit your questions to speakoutdecatur@gmail.com. That's speakoutdecatur@gmail.com, or direct message me on the Hot 105.5 Facebook page or on my tab page. Macon County teens, this one's for you. Make sure you enter the summer service presented by Hickory Point Bank. If you are doing some great things within the community, this is your chance to win one of 4 $500 gift cards so you can have some money in your pocket from Hickory Point Bank. And submitting your project is easy, and you can nominate a teen today at nowdecatur.com. Now that I got all of that out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I want to introduce this week's panel. I have serving as the program coordinator for the Dawson Civic Leadership Institute, the one and only Juanita Morris. What's going on?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic, terrific, and great all day long. All right.
Thanks for the invite.
Of course. And I also have the Decatur Police Department Chief of Police, Jim Getz. What's going on, Getz? Look at Tony. That's not.
Man, good morning. Thanks for let's speak up and speak out, right?
Yes, sir. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And of course, the Decatur, the Macon County Sheriff, the one and only Tony Chubby Brown. What's going on, Tony?
Not much, Tad. Thank you for the invite. This should be a great event.
Oh, you know it's going to be a great event with all 4 of us together. Yeah, let's get it. Now, today's topic is minority police recruitment and efforts of the Jerry J. Dawson Civic Leadership Institute. Now, let us know a little bit about that, because this is my first time hearing about it.
About the Jerry J. Dawson Civic Leadership Institute?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I am the new coordinator for the Civic Leadership Institute, so I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations.
One of the things that we want to do is really to engage our students in the community, right? Like, we want to be sure that our students have some knowledge and some background about what it takes to run and impact a community. And so part of the responsibility of the Institute is to take our students and help them to understand that it's not only what you do, it's also where you do it and how you do that. And we need them to not only live in our community, to work in our community, to take on some of those positions that are typically not filled by minority students in particular. And so the Civic Leadership Institute is new. For me, it's an exercise in entrepreneurship, in that we get to create something that at the end of the day should have a direct impact, not only on our community, but our students. And it stems from high school. We'll do some work in middle schools, but we also want to help and support our students in transitioning to college at Richland Community College. So it has some scholarship funds attached to it. So super excited about something that most of us know very little about, but that is the beauty in that we get to create it. So we've had some conversations with both of our high school principals. I'm working with Zach Shields, who have been amazing, working with Ashley Graynett in the Office of Innovative Programming, working with my colleagues here, Chief Getz and Sheriff Brown. And so the conversation, Tanya Andrix, we want our students to not only consider being police officers, to be in law enforcement, to be in healthcare, to be in education. We need educators in our community. So we're trying to create a framework that will not only provide exposure, but we will also be able to talk about some things about the importance of voting. Voting is really not political. It is a civic responsibility in how you demonstrate you're engaged in your community. How can we help our students to become nurses, CNAs, receptionists, or office administrators? So we have an amazing opportunity to do some amazing work right here in our town with our students. And I think that that's part of my task.
Hey, part of it sounds like you running this thing, girl. Okay.
we gonna see, but I'm definitely trying to give some thought and some credence to how is it going to be meaningful? Like at the end of the day, we want to be sure that we impact not only families, students in our community through the work that we do. And I think it's the same with all three of us who are on this particular session, and that our responsibility and goal is to be civically engaged just by the work that they do, as well as impact and have a direct impact on our community.
Most definitely. I want to hear from Chief Getz and Sheriff Tony about how to approach the minority students, because there's that stigma behind law enforcement, and especially in the climate that we are in now. But I know as a young Black man, we didn't even think about being in law enforcement. You know, we didn't see very much of them in the neighborhood in a positive light. So how are we addressing that when it comes to recruitment? Because I know people who are personally want to get involved and want to make a change, but how do they go about, or how do you guys go about addressing that? Tony?
Oh, okay. You said Chief. I believe that definitely in the times that we're living in now, that we see so much in the media and so many other things that are so negative when it comes to us in the law enforcement field. I just like in any other profession, you have individuals that don't make the smart decisions. So therefore, it impacts all of us as a profession. And the majority of the main thing is we just need to show up. And I think it's very important for individuals in the inner city or what have you to see people that look like them. And can try to be out there. Like I said, I grew up in the inner city of Decatur, and I've been with the sheriff's office for going on 30 years now. So I totally understand as far as what they come from. But you have to lead by example, and who's better going to take care of a community better than individuals that are from it. And I think that the majority, the fight is almost all the way, is halfway done, because if you're from a community, you already have those relationships that are built. So therefore, you don't have to work as hard or to establish those. I just tell people that when you get in a position, that to never forget where you came from. Always stay humble. And actually, I think as a society, we need to listen more to understand instead of listening to respond, because generations have changed. And the way kids learn now, what they see is totally different than the way I learned and what I saw and how I was taught. So I think that you just need to let them be a part of the conversation. And also in the community, they need to be a part of the strategic plan in order to make their communities better, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. And those are safe communities. In order to live in peace, we just want to go home, go to work and come home safely. We all do. So I just don't want people just to look at, just because we actually have a uniform or the profession that we're in, that we're any different than them. we're not. So that's my thing, is that we just have to show up and let them know that, to me, law enforcement is the most noble profession you can get in. You're willing to put your life on the line for people that you don't even know or what have you, in order for the greater good of a community. And that's my piece on that. I'm pretty sure I'm a love as far as this conversation and how it's going to go once we get deeper into this subject.
Most definitely. Thank you, Sheriff. Chief, talk to us. And I know I speak highly of both of you for the simple fact that you are bred from Decatur, and it's important to see Decaturans in leadership positions representing. So thank you, Sheriff. And Chief, can you talk to us about your involvement of promoting involvement?
Yeah, so you hit on one thing there, that the sheriff and I are both from Decatur, born and raised, and we want nothing more than to see the youth in our community be successful. And whether that success is being a police officer, or a nurse, or a teacher, an attorney, a doctor, that's what we want. And so obviously I'm biased towards police, so I want all the young men and women to be police, white, black, and Hispanic, and whoever else wants to be a police officer. I think there's two things we have to do. One is the education piece. There's that as you said, that stigma out there that police, because a lot of the inner city kids, they see police in a negative light because maybe they've had to come in and arrest their parents, or arrest their uncle or their brother or sister, and so they see police as bad people. And what we have to do is educate them to say, this is the reason the police did have to come to your neighborhood, and this is why we do certain things, so they get a better understanding of why we have to do things in certain situations. And then the second part of that is the cultural change. Right now, if you ask a young black man that's in the inner city, he may want to be a police officer, but if you ask him that, and especially if he's around his friends, he's going to say no, because it's a cultural thing. You're a sellout, and Shelby can answer this better than I can. I can answer to it based on being with black officers throughout my career, the way they were treated by other blacks for being a police officer, and some of the names they were called on some of these calls. So it's the education piece, and just let's get past that cultural change that it's not cool to be a police officer, because that's the two things holding us back, I think, in getting those the minority, the young black men and women to be police officers. Most
definitely. Just speaking as a young black man, that's definitely, you've hit it on the head. I've had family and friends who wanted to pursue law enforcement, but just because of the stigma and the encounters that we've had in our communities, not saying here necessarily in Decatur, compared to a lot of places across the country, but it is that stigma, like, I want to do it, but and then if I do pursue it, how am I going to be perceived? I love when I see the police and the sheriff's department come together to help facilitate a baseball game or a basketball game, or just coming out to a barbecue, playing basketball. How important is it to, like Sheriff was talking about, the involvement within the community outside of just showing up when things are bad?
Can I say this real quick? I'm sorry, Sheriff Brown, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something? Okay.
No.
Because I know I'll hear about it later, so I just want to be sure.
You're going to hear about it later. Yes, you are. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Morris. I'm sorry.
We lost Chief Getz. I do want to say, though, that our students have challenges, right? And it's not just the law enforcement field. I think the thing that exacerbates the law enforcement field is everything that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. There's this idea that even if we become educated in our community, then you're not like us, or you are a sellout, or all of these things, right? So there's a stigma attached to many of the professions that we choose, that our families may not understand and may not be aware of. And here is the challenge. The challenge for us, and let me just put this out here too, because I know y'all mentioned it, but I am born and raised in Decatur. I'm a graduate of Dwight D. Eisenhower, 972 East Clay Street. Like,
Hey.
I am from here. This is home. The challenge is, and the opportunity with DCLI, with the Leadership Institute, is to start to bridge some of those gaps and create some connections. But the challenge is to help our students understand that we have options and opportunities and what those mean. The way we do that is by having a Sheriff Brown, or by having a Chief Getz, or by having a Terrence Taylor, because the truth of the matter is we haven't seen it. Right? And it's just like Chubby says, if they see us and they know that we're here, they know it's an option, then we're able to change the narrative a little bit. And when we're talking about law enforcement, like Chief Getz said, you know, it is, he wanted them all to come to the police, but we're talking about it from a holistic perspective. Whether it is a lawyer, whether it's a judge, whether it is a court reporter, whether it is a police officer, like holistically, what does it look like to participate and become a part of the law enforcement community? Because it's not just one thing, but our responsibility, and part of the responsibility of DCLI, the Leadership Institute, is to expose our students to and show them that they have options, and this is what it looks like. It doesn't matter if no one in your family has been to college and no one in your family has become a police officer and no one in your family has worked in law enforcement, then we don't have that connection and that level of understanding of what it is. And it's a stigma attached to everything, right? Like, I was a sellout because I went to school for a whole bunch of years. Totally fine. So we've got to change the narrative, and we do that by exactly what they're saying, is by being fully present and offering a bigger picture other than law enforcement is just this one thing. And you know what? Right now, we don't like law enforcement. That is, I almost used a bad word, Tat. That is craziness. Right? Like,
Hey, spice it up. You can spice it. No, don't spice it.
I did. I almost used bad. My mama might see it, and then, you know, it's so crazy.
Exactly.
But when we recognize the time that we're in, and that it's challenging for law enforcement holistically, but it is also challenging for communities holistically. And how do we start, in particular in Decatur, Illinois, and in Macon County, to bridge that gap and make those connections in spite of everything else that's happening across our country? And we have the right folks to do that. It is the right time to do that. And we are all actively engaged. And we are from this community. This community is ours.
Yes, we are Decaturans. Decatur proud. Tony, go ahead.
One thing I always brag about, as far as myself and with Chief Getz, that has done a phenomenal job with the Decatur Police Department. And I'm not just saying that because he's on this call, but it's phenomenal. Is that, you know, the relationship he and I have, and we have the common goal, which is this community. So I tell people, check your ego at the door. I don't care about who gets the credit as long as it gets done. And for me, the individual that truly just brought everything full form for me was Roger Walker. And what it was, I had the opportunity to see him. He looks like me. I actually seen him in the community in a squad car, and watching how he interacted with the community, how the community interacted with him. And to me, that was like one of the greatest things that I ever seen, riding around in that the brown squad car with the brown uniform and all that. So when I'm at Mueller Park, you know, playing basketball and things like that, and I see this guy. And right then, like I said, my dad died when I was 1. So therefore, I didn't have that real positive male figure in my life to, you know, want to emulate. I seen him and I attached myself to that. So therefore, that's why I am where I am and who I am, and to have the opportunity to actually work alongside with him, and for him to actually, you know, to grab me and put me under his wing, and to somewhat tutor me and to let me know as far as what I need to do in order to get where I need to go. And then for him to actually be elected as the very first Black sheriff in the state of Illinois. Oh, it was curtains for me. And then when I actually interviewed for my very first interview for the sheriff's office, then Sheriff Lee Holzapfel asked me that question. Where do I see my future? This is before Roger was elected sheriff. I said to be sitting in the seat that you sit in. And I said that because I meant it. And for me to actually be sitting in this seat now is just like, wow. So for me, I hope that I have the impact on some others that Roger had on me. And that's why I talk about you have to show up and, grab people. I don't care where you come from or what have you, what your past may be, but you always treat everybody with respect. And, you get that back. So it's something that here in the city of Decatur and Macon County that I think is very unique, because we've seen some situations that happen in surrounding communities that didn't happen here. I truly attribute that to because of the relationship that both Chief Getz and I have with individuals in the community. And you have to be out there amongst, and sometimes we catch flack from our subordinates about, well, why are you guys are doing this? Why are you guys doing that? You put in the work prior to, because when it goes bad or something doesn't go right, you already have those relationships already established. So therefore, the community itself wins as a whole.
Yes. Oh, Tony, don't get me over here crying, man. Okay.
Here you go.
Man, oh, that story got me over here emotional for the simple fact that it means so much, especially as a young African American male, to see yourself in individual. That's why representation is so important. And involvement, like you said, even if your subordinates are like, hey, why are you showing up to this, that, and the third? Because of the relationship building. And just like with this project that's happening right now within the schools is so important, because all it takes is one individual to change a life, one champion to change a child's life. Thank you, Sheriff. You got me over here. I was like, oh, don't cheer up.
I tell you something else that's funny too. So last year when they've been doing the Southside Sundays down at Mueller Park. I grew up in that park. I grew up on the South Side of Decatur.
Yep.
What's so funny is people's like, well, why are you down there? Seriously, I was down there to relax. Because I am down there with people, I'm amongst friends, people I haven't seen in forever.
Barbecue and
I was like literally looking for that time to get out there with the grill and to grill out and just to hang out and just to have good fun with everybody. Yes. So be it. If those turned out into helping the relationship or whatever, but that was my way of relaxing. I really look forward to those days. To that way I can have the opportunity to unwind. Yes,
and it shows the involvement of law enforcement in the community. Not just when bad things happen. It shows you as guardians instead of soldiers.
Exactly.
And protectors. Chief, let us know about the importance of the involvement and being in the community outside of just your uniform.
Yeah, so for me, it boils down to let's do the right thing. And the right thing is for us to be involved and show that there's a human side to us, but also to reach out to those kids and people that need that guidance, or they need somebody to look up to. An example, for me is you should treat everybody the same. I remember down at the sheriff's old building when we were down there, I worked midnights as the lieutenant. And I'd have the janitor who would come in, and before you knew it, they were sitting in my office 20 minutes, and we just BSing about whatever. And it shows that you have to treat everybody the same. We may not, maybe I make more money than you, or maybe I live in a nicer house, or I don't live in a nicer house. But the bottom line is you treat everybody the same based on their character and how they treat you. And so what we need to get past is treating people based on how much money they make, what they look like, the color of their skin, and reach out to everybody and bring us all together. This division and dividing amongst our population that's going on across the United States it bothers me, because we all should be working together for one common goal, and it would be so much better if everybody looked at it that way. It would be more peaceful. Everybody would get along. You're always going to have certain issues that are taking place, but I think if people spent more time on bringing people together rather than pulling people apart, we'd be better for it. And I think here in Decatur, we do a pretty good job of that. We've got, yourself, and Juanita, and the sheriff, and myself, but I'm telling you, we're just a very small portion of those people who are doing things like that. When you get us all together and everybody's pushing the same message, I think that makes a big difference. This Leadership Institute, Juanita's going to do a great job with it. We're going to do whatever we can to make it a success. But for me, the big part of it is we're going to be able to get to some of these kids before they step into a situation where they can't recover from.
Yes.
You know what I mean by that? For law enforcement, and each profession is different, but for law enforcement, and the sheriff knows this, there's disqualifying offenses that if you commit this crime, you're convicted of it, you automatically cannot be a police officer. And that's not the sheriff's rule. That's not my rule. That's the state law. So if we can get to these kids early and get them guided in the right direction and say, this is what we need you to do. And you can do this, whether it be a police officer or whatever other profession. But if we can get them early and keep them out of trouble, get them down that right path, and then also help them become what they want to become. You start doing that a few times, that's going to spread, and pretty soon you're going to have a successful program for years down the road. And so, man, I think it's awesome. I wish I had something like that when I was a kid. Luckily for me, my grandparents, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and the person that lived next door, their son was a Decatur police officer, and he retired a few years ago. But I would see him stop by his grandparents' house, and I'm like, man, I want to be a police officer. And so I think more kids need to see that, whether it be a police officer, a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, whatever, and get past that stigma. It ain't cool to go to college, or isn't cool to be a police officer, or it isn't cool to be a lawyer. It is cool to do all that stuff, and that's what we need to push.
I love the investing in young people. That's where
There are a few
problems. Yeah, investing in the youth and the young people at an early age, and introducing them, educating them by what you do, not by what you say you're going to do, but just by showing up and giving them opportunities and options is important. That's how you create the leaders. And as we get older, those are the ones that take care of us. Yeah.
I think that it's interesting too, in that the things that the sheriff and the chief are talking about are the things that they do and continue to do. Yes. I remember seeing Chief Getz, I think at like a Panera, and he stopped, he came over, and I was looking at my husband, I was like, now who is that? And my husband's like, I think that was the chief, because he wasn't in uniform. He's like, I think that was the chief. I was like, oh, okay. But then when I saw him the last time, he said, hey, how's your dad? I was like, oh, dang, what did my dad do? Like, why, I'm calling my dad like, hey, you know the chief. And so my dad says, you know what? He is a really nice, genuine guy. That goes a long way. He didn't have to say it. Chief Getz didn't have to say it. My dad and my parents talk about Chubby. My dad mentioned Chief Getz. The things that we are talking about doing are the things that we live, right? We come together, we have, and it's not disagreements, but part of DCLI is helping our young folks to understand that we don't always have to agree. Mm-hmm. That is the beauty in diversity. Mm-hmm. That is the beauty in understanding one another. But what makes us better is when we have, as they both mentioned, this common cause. My perspective is drastically different from the sheriff's perspective. It's drastically different from a young African-American man's perspective. It's drastically different from the chief's perspective. But we've got one common cause, which is the betterment of this community, which is our community. So when we disagree, I know that it's a disagreement in understanding how to best serve our community. It has nothing to do, like the sheriff said, with ego. Nothing at all. It has nothing to do with being right, but it has everything to do with honoring and understanding diversity, honoring and understanding one another, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's age. Young folks see things a lot different than we see things. We have to do that, seek to understand, as Chubby mentioned earlier. But the things that we are asking people to do are the things that we live in this community. We're not asking anybody to do anything that we have not or will not do. We're not asking anybody to go into a school and beg folks to do anything. All we're saying is let us be open to understanding how to make things better. And we know that that's hard work, right? We know that we've got to change some minds and change some perspectives, not only of our kids, but also of their parents.
Yeah, but that's real talk.
Hey. No, that's real. That's real. Keep it going. Like what you're saying.
But the thing is, though, I mean, at the end of the day, we just need to educate one another. And sometimes we'll come into a neighborhood, And, when you leave out of there, if you take the time, extra 2 or 3 minutes to explain the situation with people, a lot of times people don't have any problems with what law enforcement do.
Yes.
It's just they need to be informed as far as, because at the end of the day, if they're part of the process, they want the same thing. And I think that's an issue. We just don't communicate. Yeah. Once everything else just goes out the window and people will fill in the blanks. Exactly. And what they fill it in with ain't always the right things. And that's one thing that I will always credit the Decatur Police Department as far as when it comes to the alert team, to put that together, because that is such a community approach when you have a situation that doesn't always go in the proper way or fashion, that way we make sure that the right information gets out there, because if it doesn't, it gets filled in, and a lot of times it's the wrong information. And once that goes to go viral, and there's no stepping back then, as far as turning back, as far as trying to get the correct information out, because it's already out there. So we have a lot of great things going on in this community, and with DLCI is another feather in our cap when it comes to that. And I think, to me, I think it's going to be very, very successful for the youth here in our community.
It's the transparency. Like, that's
exactly.
We think that everybody should communicate the same. And here's what we know for sure. We know that we all don't communicate the same. And Correct. It goes back to the basic of understanding, of trying to communicate to understand in the best way that we can. I don't have to communicate like Tat. I never will. I won't communicate like a police officer. But we have to figure out, how do we have that underlying common goal and common theme to convey that idea, respecting one another's communication style, I think. And that's not easy. And part of DCLI is to really talk to our students about level of understanding and communication, right?
I don't know. I'm excited about it, Juanita. I'm ready. I'm ready to get it started. Let's go.
I'm nervous. Good.
You can't tell.
I am.
You're cussing and everything.
You're cussing.
I'm gonna get fired.
We can't tell you nervous. Don't mute yourself. No, this ain't the time to be muted.
Cuss me out for muting? Did you do that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's because we love you, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I think anything that is directly impacting the youth, especially the youth that is considered the troubled youth, or the underserved, or overlooked, those are the young people that I champion behind, because they need the wraparound. They need those positive inspirations, those men like yourself, those women, those queens like yourself, like Dr. Morris, to be there. Tony says it all the time, just the main part is just to show up and be involved, because you just showing up, like in both the sheriff and the chief's case, just seeing it changed their lives. Just seeing it, whether it's at the park and you see this black man rolling up in a brown squad car, or you at your grandparents' house and you see this police officer come to, like, it makes a difference when kids just see it in a different light. So this program, I feel, is going to be fantastic, because it's led fantastically by great leaders. I champion behind each and every one of you and what you do, because it's important and it has to be seen. And I'm excited too. I'm just going to come up to one of the schools while you're up there and just sit in the back. 34 years old. All right. But yeah, any last thoughts for this phenomenal program?
I just want to say I'm very, very excited. We got to look at that. This is our future.
Yes.
And we need to invest in our future.
Yes.
So this, to me, at the end of the day, when you have someone that actually attended the academy to sit around and say that they're sitting as a chief of police, or they're sitting as a sheriff, then we're getting our ROI, our return on investment. Yeah. And that's exactly what the Institute is going to do. It's going to invest in our youth, and to see that return, I'm excited to see that.
Oh man, to see the young kids say, I did this because of you, that's going to be fantastic.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than, and I'll relate this to back in my days of coaching JFL here in Decatur, and seeing some of those kids on the street later as they grew up and just coming up and thank them thanking me for taking time out to coach them and just setting a positive example, and so I think we'll be able to see more of that, because there's nothing better than seeing a young kid that in a environment that is not conducive for success come out and be successful. There's nothing better to have a small part of that, and that's awesome.
It's the best. Like Sheriff said, it's the investment, and people don't look at it like that. This is our future. We invest in our future. Return on investment. Dr. Morris.
I'll say that I'm appreciative personally of the support and the active engagement of both of our law enforcement officers that are leading our organizations here in our town. I'm also appreciative of the panel of folks who have decided to be actively engaged in DCLI, the Leadership Institute. It's just an opportunity and a super exciting time to work to impact and change lives of the people that live in our community. And a lot of communities don't have the opportunities that we have. So as we continue to figure out what this looks like and how it launches, if there is any parent that have a student, and I think you mentioned that, Tat, and that it's not just for a specific group of students, it's for any student, high achiever, mediocre achiever, struggle in school, at promise student. It is for any student, DPS student that is interested in learning more. But in particular for our high school students, if there are any students that are interested, I would love for their parents or the student to email me. Can I share the email address here, or what's the best?
Yes, share it.
So my email is Jerry J. Dawson Civic Leadership Institute. And if anyone is interested, please send me a high school student in particular. We're still going to work with middle school and lower school levels. And we're working on what that looks like, especially in the midst of COVID. But high school students in particular, we're going to probably slowly start to launch sooner. Please email Juanita Morris at jmmorris, JMMORRIS at dps61.org. First initial, middle initial, last name, JM Morris at dps61.org.
Beautiful. This has been Speak Up, Speak Out. I just want to thank my fantastic panel, Dr. Morris, Chief Getz, and Sheriff Tony. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been fantastic. I'm excited for what's to come. Invested in our future, as Tony would say. I love that. So if you see that in the Facebook post, I'll give you credit. All right.
All right.
I've been your host, Terrence Tad Taylor. Remember, you can catch Speak Up, Speak Out every Saturday at noon on our Hot 105.5 Facebook page and nowdecatur.com. But you can join in on the conversation as well at any time by emailing us your thoughts and topics to speakoutdecatur@gmail.com. That's speakoutdecatur@gmail.com. Message us on our Hot 105.5 Facebook page or on my TAT Facebook page as well. Thank you to our sponsors again, Crossing Healthcare, Community Foundation of Macon County, United Way of Decatur and Mid-Illinois, Neuhoff Media, and our great city of Decatur. Last thing before we go, please speak up and be counted. The census is critical for our community to receive the funding for everything from job training, better schools, better healthcare, and important services like food distribution and housing assistance. It takes like 4 minutes or less to complete 9 easy questions. Go to 2020census.gov and be heard today. Thank you guys for joining me.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census gives communities across America the chance to get the funding they need. But there's a catch. The money is based on counting an accurate number of residents in each state. The fewer people we count, the less money Illinois gets. Illinois has received nearly $60 billion from the federal government based on numbers from the last census. Every person who doesn't fill out the census means less money for Illinois. That's money we could use for new school programs to help our children thrive and succeed, for building new bridges that would help you travel safely on your morning commute, for paving roads and ensuring more reliable public transportation, and for improving our hospitals and clinics so everyone gets the best health care. In Illinois, we deserve our fair share, and it starts with all of us being counted. Visit my2020census.gov or text 987-987 to learn how you can fill out the census today.